want to hope that this is working. I'll also tell y'all this now that this is take two, because in the first take I stumbled all over my words and kept botching, and we were only one match in. I was like, you know what? We're one match in. Let's go ahead and restart it. So this is take two. Let's see if this is working. I hope that it is. I'd imagine that will be. The moment I say it, it is not. This content is no longer available. Buddy, I just clicked it. It is available now. All right. Ring of Honor TV review. Episode number 135. Again, I was mentioning how I was messing up. The first thing that happened, first of all, I hit the record, and just everything that I thought of, I went blank on and instantly started sweating because of it. So that's thing one. Thing two, I was going to talk about last week's episode. Was a very good episode of Ring of Honor on Honor Club, and I completely blanked on what the hell happened. We had the LFI versus Von Erich's tag team title match. We had Mina Shirakawa defending the women's TV title. So I was going on and on about last week's episode being a good episode. And normally when that's the case, the next week's episode isn't. I guess this is somewhat of a rarity, but this is also a good episode. So I was trying to compare the two and give off positive vibes because it is needed at the moment. So I'm going to quit going on about last week's episode, and I'm going to talk about this week's episode because you would want to know what happened on Ring of Honor, on Honor Club, episode number 135. So let's get right into it. The opening contest is MxM Collection and Taya Valkyrie, collectively known as MxM TV, taking on Top Flight and Layla Gray, collectively known as SkyFlight. Before the matchup begins, though, we see MxM in the backstage area, and they do not have their, and I'm saying this in quotes, seed, because Mansoor could not clear it through customs because it was too large, end quote. Taya and Layla Gray start the matchup off with Dante being double teamed once he is tagged in. At some point, Taya and Layla start to brawl on the outside. The cameras don't really show it. They show what's happening in the ring, which, I guess that's a good thing. MxM are trying to hit the centerfold and are not unable to, and then they attempt to do a Doomsday Device, but Mansoor is knocked off of the top rope, and it sets up Top Flight to hit a double DDT to pick up the victory, so SkyFlight picks up the win. The next matchup is the Workhorsemen versus Chance Prophet and Rosario Grillo. I always have a hard time saying his first name. But Henry and Grillo start the matchup off with the Workhorsemen getting the advantage early. Drake hits a great belly-to-belly suplex on Prophet, and the Workhorsemen win with a kick into a follow-away slam. They said a name for it. Caprice Coleman said a name for it, and I completely blanked on it. Granted, I also went to if I don't know the name of a finisher, or I want to double-check what the hell the name of it is, I normally Google it. The Workhorseman's finisher never popped up. So hopefully they start to win a lot more. Or they got to win a lot anyways. Regardless, hopefully, it gets Googled, verified later on. Just for my sake. And our sake, I guess. Regardless, LFI came out at the end of this matchup and are just watching the Workhorsemen. But we'll learn why they were doing that a little bit later on. As the next matchup is Yuka Sakazaki versus Zoe Lynn, and I will be an asshole and mention this. Yuka Sakazaki's first round matchup in the Women's Pure title tournament is against Serena Deeb. And Serena Deeb is also in a Pure Rules matchup on this show. Why the hell they just didn't have the first round matchup this week and on this episode, I don't know. I don't know why they feel the need to stretch this tournament out and have these, and in quotations, exhibition matches, considering not every single it's not, when you're in the playoffs, you're not playing other teams. You're playing the one team. You don't need this many damn warm-ups. I don't know why they feel the need to stretch it out. My theory that I just came up with a little bit earlier is that they're going to try to have the finals at Final Battle, and doing so, they're going to need to stretch the tournament out for another 2 months. But again, that's not confirmed. That's just me thinking in my mind. Regardless, why we need to wait, I don't really know. But the matchup that did happen, let's talk about that. Yuka Sakazaki versus Zoe Lynn. Lynn uses her first rope break after escaping a wrist lock, with Yuka landing a big clothesline on the outside. We get a crossbody in the ring by Lynn, and then we get a magical merry-go-round by Yuka to pick up the victory. And it's not the last that we will see of her on this episode. As the frat house are continuing to party, they've been partying for the past at least 2 weeks, I think 3 weeks, with the Blue Meanie and other people. And the party finally gets shut down by Coach Buzz, a.k.a. Glacier. And I Googled what his coach name was in WCW. I knew the reference. I got the reference. The reason that I just botched his name is not even really a botch. I've never called him Coach. I always called him Glacier. Even when he was doing the gimmick and I watched shit back with him doing it, he's Glacier to me. He is Glacier to me. Regardless, he turns into Glacier during this part and runs the frat house off. So, in short, the frat house party is put to an end by Glacier. And, it's time to go back to work for them, and they have a matchup. But their opponents are not named because the frat house attacked them before the bell rings, and they win this matchup with Carter hitting a very impressive 450 splash. So a lot of frat house talk with a lot of chaos in between, I guess is the best way to put it. LFI, I mentioned them earlier, coming out to watch the end of the Workhorsemen's match, and, they offer them a tag team title opportunity because they want to see them. They think that they have earned it, and they think that they're worthy opponents, but they weren't really impressed by their matchup and their win because they are winners every day. And, I guess that makes sense because they're the tag team champions. And I already said it once. I'll say it again. It's not the last that we see of them on this episode. As the next matchup is Aaron Solo versus Jay Lethal. Both dudes dives to the outside to both one another before the bell even rings. Once the bell does ring, it is a fast-paced start. We got a Hail to the King into a roll-up. Then both of them drop kick each other's knees throughout the bout. So both of them have a hard time standing up. And then at one point, Solo is trying to get himself together and stand up in the center of the ring. And it just puts Lethal in perfect position to hit a lethal injection. As next, we have a six-person mixed tag match. I apologize. The Premier Athletes in Starry Denali versus Cowpoke Paul, Gen Z, and Reese Ramon with an E at the end. Z and Davari start the matchup off, but it does not matter as the Premier Athletes dominate until Ramon is accidentally tagged in and Denali is forced to come in and continues the domination for the Premier Athletes, and she wins with a spine buster, which I paused because I'm laughing at myself because I wrote down brain buster, which would have meant it was a little bit more crazy. I'm trying to think of a matchup to put on for y'all, and I'm blanking on it at the moment. So, who's Eddie? I ain't seen Eddie Kingston on here in a minute, so we're going to put him against Dax Hardwood. F it. This would be a good match because it's two of my favorites. I mentioned that Pure Rules debacle that I created earlier. Doesn't matter again because we have Sareee and Deeb versus Katie Arquette in a Pure Rules match right now. Deeb targets the arm of Arquette early and wins in 2 minutes and 20 seconds with an octopus stretch. As Yuka comes out afterwards and they have a face-to-face. What would have made this a lot better is if they popped up a little graphic. Yuka Sakazaki versus Serena Deeb next week. Also, I never mention how long these Pure Rules matches last because they have the timer on the screen. So I should probably mention it, and I only really did it here because it was just so quick. I was like, how long did this go? It was 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Now the matchup that y'all came here for. This was a big matchup just filmed prior to Dynamite. I don't know when these other matches were filmed, but when this was tweeted, a lot of people were like, oh, shit, this happened on ROH. This is cool. And there's a bigger follow-up that happens on Collision. But we'll get to that when we get to that. So this matchup that I'm going to talk about, the one that is more than likely in the thumbnail of the video, Billie Starkz and Diamante versus Alex Windsor and Sareee. We get no code of honor as Starkz and Windsor starts the matchup off. Starkz is double-teamed early, but she gets some help with a blind tag from Diamante, and Windsor is trapped in their corner afterwards. Windsor's headbutt leads to tagging Sareee back in. We get a double stomp by Sareee, followed by a swanton by Starkz. We get a bulldog by Diamante that gets a 2 count as Sareee's suplex is followed by Windsor's sharpshooter, and it ends the bout. as later on, aka after the next matchup, but I want to mention it now because it's connected. Windsor challenges Sareee for her IWGP Women's title next week, so that was taped after Collision, or taped. I think it was taped before, because they did Dynamite on Wednesday. They taped this week's Collision on Thursday. Whenever it was taped, it doesn't matter. But we do know that matchup will be taking place next week. I'm sorry that I said sorry. It might be Sareee. I kind of just said the same thing twice. So there's that. We have an IWGP Women's title match next week. We got 2 more matches to discuss on this week's episode. The next one being Beef versus Dralistico. We get no Code of Honor, which pisses Beef off. We see Dralistico slamming him around the ringside barricade a lot for the early portion of the match, and then in the ring he lands a double foot stomp that gets a 2 count. We get a springboard code breaker that ends the matchup off as LFI attack Beef with, we get some continuity. The Workhorsemen, JD Drake and Anthony Henry, come to save the day, and it makes a lot of sense because we know that LFI came out after their matchup. We know that they have a tag team title matchup or a tag team matchup with them in the future, because maybe they make them go through the proving ground. They do that whole stuff. But the continuity is that Beef is Anthony Henry's cousin. And it gets mentioned when Beef comes out. It doesn't get mentioned a lot when Anthony Henry comes out. So finally we see the family members reunite. As our main event this week is Johnny TV versus AR Fox. So MxM TV started the show, and they will be ending the show. We get an Anarchy suplex early on from Fox, with MxM grabbing his feet when he tries to do a dive on the apron. Fox starts a comeback on with a dive to the outside and a swanton in the ring that gets a 2 count. Then Johnny TV attempts a neck breaker, but is reversed into a roll-up as AR Fox rolls out of the ring after it and won the match. I should have said he won the matchup, then rolls out of the ring, celebrating on the outside, because that's how it all ended. So, overall, like I said, I enjoyed this episode. Not much to complain about outside of them just dragging out this women's pure title tournament. But I've been mentioning that for months, as it sounds like there's a truck going by, but it sounds like, with the headset on, it sounds like a UFO. And if I get... ain't no way that's a truck. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Ain't no way that's a truck. Whatever the hell that is making loud noises. So hopefully nothing happens there. But I do appreciate y'all for watching this. Let's see if Dax picks up the victory. He does to close this out. I would have preferred Eddie to win, but it is what it is. So appreciate y'all watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you when I see you, because I'm out for now.